Today's story is about the one house rule you should never break. My friends swore their basement was haunted and made me promise not to sleep down there. I broke that promise. After a party, I crashed on the old basement couch. I woke up at 3 a.m. to whispering in the dark. When I went to check, it stopped. Then I saw a shadow move across my closed eyes. I ran for the stairs, but I wasn't alone. Something was following my every step. Was it a ghost? Follow to find out what happened next and comment your scariest sleepover story below. The house on Hemlock Drive was a rental special, a sprawling, one-floor rancher that had eaten the savings of 3 recent college grads, my best friend Mark, his girlfriend Sarah, and their roommate, Chloe. I was the fourth wheel, the weekend visitor from out of town, eager to escape my own cramped apartment. The place had a certain shabby charm. The main floor was all worn floral couches and wood-paneled walls that smelled faintly of dust and old dinners. But the real talking point was the basement. Mark gave me the tour with a flashlight, his beam cutting through the gloom. Owner started a renovation and just stopped, he explained, his voice echoing in the vast, open space. The air was cold and carried the scent of damp concrete and mildew. The outer walls were framed with 2x4s, and only one interior room in the far corner had been fully drywalled and finished. The rest was a cavernous expanse, a concrete floor dotted with islands of discarded furniture, a stained armchair, a stack of dusty crates, and a sagging, floral print couch. A single, bare, 100-watt bulb hung from a wire in the center of the room, casting a harsh, unforgiving light that created more shadows than it banished. "We host parties down here," Sarah said from the top of the stairs. "It's kind of our thing. But rule number 1, she added, her tone shifting to seriousness. "Nobody, and I mean nobody, sleeps down here." I nodded, absorbing the information. Creepy vibes. Got it. I didn't press for details. At 21, you think you're invincible. Ghost stories are just that, stories. The warning went in one ear and, tired from my drive and distracted by the prospect of a party, promptly fluttered out the other. That night, the basement was transformed. The single bulb was supplemented by a few strategically placed lava lamps and strings of fairy lights, casting a pulsating, multicolored glow. Music thumped through a portable speaker, and the cavernous space was filled with the energy of 30 or 40 people, their laughter and shouts absorbing the eerie silence. I floated through the crowd, catching up with old friends and being introduced to new ones. My eyes, however, kept drifting to Chloe. She was Sarah's friend from art school, and she was, for lack of a more sophisticated word, stunning. She had an easy confidence and a laugh that could cut through the loudest bass line. We talked for a while about nothing in particular, but the connection was palpable, a low hum of attraction beneath the party's roar. As the night wore on, and the digital clock on the speaker flipped past 2 a.m., the party began to deflate. People started claiming spots on couches, air mattresses, and patches of carpet on the main floor. The energy shifted from revelry to the quiet murmurs of settling down. I realized I had nowhere to go. The couch in Mark's room was taken. The living room floor was a patchwork of sleeping bags. I was the last man without a chair when the music stopped. Standing in the suddenly quiet kitchen, I surveyed my options. The floor looked hard, and the idea of squeezing into a crowded room was unappealing. Then I remembered the basement. The warning echoed faintly in my memory, but it was drowned out by logic. It's just a basement, I told myself. A little creepy, sure, but it's dry, and that couch is probably more comfortable than hardwood floor. The thought of being near Chloe, who was sleeping in the living room, also held a certain appeal, a pathetic, hopeful fantasy that she might also be a light sleeper. I grabbed a spare blanket from a linen closet and quietly descended the wooden stairs, each creak sounding like a gunshot in the silence. The main light was still on, that single, blinding bulb illuminating the post-party detritus, empty cups, a forgotten jacket, the lingering smell of beer and sweat. The floral couch was as uninviting as it looked, but it was horizontal. I kicked off my shoes, lay down, and pulled the blanket up to my chin, staring at the exposed joists of the ceiling. The shadows, once banished by the party, now seemed to press in from the edges of the room, held back only by the harsh pool of light directly above me. I must have fallen into a fitful sleep, because the next thing I knew, I was jolted awake. The digital watch on my wrist glowed 4:17 a.m. The house was tomb silent. And I was cold, a deep, permeating chill that had seeped up from the concrete and into my bones. That's when I heard a low, intimate sound from the finished room in the corner. A whisper. Then a soft, feminine giggle. Then a deeper, male whisper in response. Annoyance flared in my chest. Seriously? Someone decided that room was the makeout spot? At 4 a.m.? My polite, sleep-deprived brain took over. I just asked them to keep it down or take it upstairs. I swung my legs off the couch, the cold floor a shock to my bare feet. I padded quietly towards the closed door of the interior room. The whispering continued, a hushed, secretive conversation I couldn't quite decipher. As I got within a few feet of the door, my shadow falling across it, the sound ceased, just stopped. Not like they heard me and were waiting. It was an absolute, vacuum-sealed silence. Hello. I whispered, my voice small in the vast space. No answer. I reached out, my hand hovering over the doorknob. A sudden, irrational fear gripped me. What if I opened it and it was empty? What would be worse than that? I lost my nerve. I stood there for a full minute, listening to the frantic thumping of my own heart. The silence held. Convinced it had been my imagination or sound traveling from upstairs, I retreated back to the couch, feeling foolish. Lying back down was a battle. The initial fear had been replaced by a crawling, paranoid anxiety. The single light bulb was now my enemy, a blazing sun burning through my closed eyelids. I twisted and turned, trying to find a position where the light wasn't directly in my face, but it was impossible. Frustrated, I just squeezed my eyes shut, willing sleep to come. My mind replayed the whispering. It had sounded so clear, so present. That's when it happened. As I lay there with my eyes tightly closed, I saw a shadow move across the red-hued darkness of my own eyelids. It was a distinct, swift darkening, as if a solid form had passed silently between me and the bare bulb. My eyes flew open. I was staring straight up at the light, my heart hammering against my ribs. The room was empty. The air was still, but the conviction was absolute. Something had been there. Something had been standing over me. That was it. Every primal instinct in my body was screaming. I sat bolt upright, the blanket falling away. Nope, I whispered to the empty room. Then, louder, nope, nope, nope. I was talking to myself, a mantra of denial as I shoved my feet into my shoes, not even bothering to tie them. I stood up, my eyes fixed on the wooden staircase at the far end of the basement. It looked a mile away. I started walking, fast, not quite running. The concrete floor was uneven, and with one step, the sole of my shoe scuffed against a raised spot. Scuff. I took another step, my foot landing perfectly flat. Scuff. I froze mid-stride, my blood turning to ice. The second scuffing sound had not come from my foot. I stood at the bottom of the stairs, my hand on the rough wooden banister, and I listened. For a second, there was nothing. Then, from the darkness behind me, another soft, shuffling footstep. Then another. It was the sound of someone or something mimicking my own retreat. Panic is not a strong enough word. It was a pure animal terror that short-circuited my brain and handed control over to my body. I took the stairs two at a time, my untied laces slapping against the wood. The sound was tremendous in the silence, but beneath it, I could still hear that soft, relentless shuffling from the basement floor. I burst through the door at the top, my chest heaving. I spun around, my hand on the doorframe, and stared back down into the abyss. The single bulb still burned, illuminating an empty concrete floor and the ugly floral couch. There was nothing there. I waited 10 seconds that felt like an hour, my ears straining. The house was silent. Had I imagined it? Was it the pipes? My own paranoid mind. Then I heard it. A single, deliberate footfall on the bottom wooden stair. It was heavy, solid. And then the distinct, agonizing creak of that stair settling under a weight that had not been there moments before. I slammed the basement door shut, my hands trembling so badly I could barely turn the old-fashioned lock. I backed away, my eyes glued to the door, expecting to see the knob jiggle, to hear a scratching. But nothing happened. The door remained still, a silent, ominous barrier. My breath was coming in ragged gasps. I needed to find Mark, or Sarah, someone who would believe me. I tiptoed through the dark house, peering into rooms filled with the silhouettes of sleeping people. In the living room, on a large air mattress, I saw a familiar shape. It was Chloe, sleeping alone. It was weird she wasn't in her room, but in that moment, she was a familiar anchor in a sea of terror. I knelt beside the air mattress, my heart still trying to beat its way out of my chest. I reached out and gently shook her shoulder. Chloe. "See, wake up," I hissed, trying to keep my voice low. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open. In the faint light from the street lamp outside, I saw her confused, sleep-softened face. "Your basement," I whispered, my voice shaking with adrenaline. "It's haunted. There's something down there." She blinked at me once, twice. Then her expression shifted. The confusion melted away, replaced by a look of pure, unadulterated annoyance. She looked at me like I had just announced that water was wet. "Duh," she said, her voice thick with sleep. "We told everyone not to sleep down there." The simplicity of her statement, the sheer casualness of it, completely short-circuited my panic. All the terror, the sprint up the stairs, the whispering, it all crashed into this immovable wall of her nonchalance. Was all I could manage. There was a long pause. The adrenaline was gone, leaving me hollow and exhausted, so I whispered, feeling utterly pathetic. "Can I crash on the corner of the air mattress?" She sighed, a long-suffering sound, and scooted over, pulling the blanket with her. "Fine." I lay down on the very edge, not daring to move an inch, listening to the sound of her breathing even out as she fell back asleep. I stared at the ceiling until the sun came up, the word "duh" echoing in my mind. I left that afternoon. The goodbyes were cheerful, with promises to visit again soon. But as I drove away from Hemlock Drive, a deep, permanent chill had settled inside me. It wasn't just the fear of what I had experienced, the whispering, the shadow, the mimicked footsteps. It was the casual acceptance of it all by my friends. They lived with it. They partied above it. They had normalized the impossible. The world no longer felt as safe or as explainable as it had just 24 hours earlier. Logic and reason had failed me. I had become a ghost story, a footnote in the history of that strange house on Hemlock Drive. And sometimes, when I'm lying in my own bed in the dead of night, trying to fall asleep, I'll hear the house settle or see a strange pattern of shadows from a passing car. In that moment, my heart will stutter and I'll find myself whispering a single, fervent prayer into the darkness, a lesson learned in the most terrifying way possible. Nope, nope, nope.